It took me 18 years to discover these details in Harry Potter. During the wizarding world's darkest times, the Weasley twins opened Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. If you look closely inside their shop, you'll spot a miniature figure riding a unicycle, none other than Dolores Umbridge herself. The figure even screeches the phrase,
"I will have order,"
which Umbridge yelled at the centaurs in the Forbidden Forest.
"I will have order."
In Hagrid's Care of Magical Creatures class, Hermione starts the lesson wearing her school robes. However, when she convinces Hagrid to send Malfoy to the hospital wing, her robes are nowhere to be seen. This might seem like a production oversight, but it actually hints that Hermione had already used her time turner. If you look carefully, you'll notice the time turner hanging around her neck. In the final film during Snape's duel with Professor McGonagall, he never once goes on the offensive. Instead, he deflects McGonagall's spells onto the two Death Eaters behind him. Before flying out the window, he even snatches their wands to ensure they can't harm any more students. Later, when the Death Eaters attack Hogwarts, many giants join the battle. If you pay close attention, you'll see that some of the giants are wielding Quidditch goalposts as weapons. One can only imagine Oliver Wood's reaction to this sight. When Dumbledore seeks out Harry, a perfume ad on a billboard behind him reads, "Tonight make a little magic with your man." This subtle detail hints at Dumbledore's romantic preferences, even though it's never explicitly mentioned in the books. You know what I mean. Later on, Hermione uses the Confundus charm on McLaggen to help Ron become the Gryffindor keeper. During the actual match, Ron performs brilliantly. If you look closely, you'll notice that McLaggen is the only spectator not cheering for Ron's stellar saves. During the Battle of Hogwarts, when Snape talks to Voldemort, he glances out the window, clearly spotting Harry outside. Snape swiftly moves to shield Harry from view, protecting the trio as he always has. At this moment, Snape stands between Harry and the Dark Lord, foreshadowing that after Snape's demise, Harry will face his nemesis alone. Here's a mind-blowing fact. Harry's parents passed away on October 31st, 1981. Harry discovered he was a wizard on his 11th birthday, July 31st, 1991. The time span between these events is exactly 117 months. During the Battle of Hogwarts, when Professor McGonagall led everyone to battle, if you look closely, you can see Professor Slughorn secretly drinking something behind them. Based on earlier scenes, we can deduce that he was sipping his own brewed Felix Felicis, aka Liquid Luck, and indeed, he survived the war in the end. Later, when Voldemort summoned Snape to the Shrieking Shack, we can spot a Gryffindor scarf hanging next to Snape. This subtly hints that Snape had always been a brave man at heart. Here's a fun fact for you. Snape was the only Death Eater who could conjure a full Patronus. In the first movie, Harry became an exceptional seeker thanks to Professor McGonagall's keen eye for talent, and of course, the Nimbus 2000 she gifted him. But the film also foreshadowed Harry's seeker skills in another way. When Oliver Wood released the Golden Snitch, Harry's gaze followed the snitch's movement, while Wood himself couldn't even see it. In the third film, if you observe carefully when Harry opens the Marauder's map, Newt's name can be seen moving on it, even though Newt would have been 96 years old at the time. Perhaps he returned because of the whole Buckbeak situation. And at the very end of the movie, there's another Marauder's map Easter egg. Can you guess what they were up to? At the beginning of the movie, when Hagrid takes Harry to Diagon Alley, and they enter the Leaky Cauldron, you can see that the pub's sign only appears as they approach. Once inside, we see the bartender looking like this, but by the third movie, the Leaky Cauldron's owner has transformed into this new appearance. In the second film, when Harry communicates with Voldemort through his Horcrux diary, there's a lamp next to Harry. However, when he enters Voldemort's memory, everything around is in black and white, yet you can still see the warm glow of the lamp on Harry's face. Throughout the movies, Harry arrives late to Hogwarts twice. The first time is in the Chamber of Secrets when Harry and Ron drive the enchanted car to school. The second instance occurs when Malfoy attacks Harry, causing him to be tardy. In both cases, Snape is waiting for Harry at the castle entrance. Here's a fun fact for you. In the Goblet of Fire, it's actually Dobby who gives Harry the gillyweed, not Neville. Similarly, in the Order of the Phoenix, Dobby is the one who discovers the Room of Requirement, which he had previously used to help his friend Winky. When the Weasley twins were pranking Molly, we could see her yelling Fred's name while looking straight at his trunk. And if you look at other shots, you'll notice that both Harry and George have their initials printed on their trunks. This clearly shows that Molly knew she got the name right all along. As a loving mother, she was just gently playing along with her son's little prank. After Wormtail murdered Cedric, Harry brought him back to Hogwarts. When Cho saw this heartbreaking scene, tears streamed down her face and the camera zoomed in on her hand with CD written on it, short for Cedric Diggory. She had her beloved's name hidden in her hand, hoping with all her heart that he'd return victorious. Instead, she got the devastating news of his passing. There's another detail about Cedric worth noting. In November 1993, when the Hufflepuff Quidditch team played against Gryffindor, even though the movie doesn't mention it, Cedric was actually Hufflepuff's seeker at that time. In the third movie, after Aunt Marge insulted Harry's father, Harry used magic to turn her into a balloon and watched her float up into the sky. Later on, when Harry decided to leave on his own, it was already getting dark, but if you're paying attention, you'll spot anti-balloons still floating around up there. Do you remember the password to get into Professor Dumbledore's office? Sherbet Lemon? Well, in the sixth movie, you can actually see those exact candies sitting right there on Dumbledore's desk. Here's a fun fact for you. In the books, Harry didn't break the Elder Wand. Instead, He used it to repair his own damaged wand and then returned it to Dumbledore's tomb. In the second movie, when Harry accidentally ends up in Borgin and Burke's, there's an opal necklace displayed in one of the cases. That's the exact same necklace Draco uses to try and take out Dumbledore in the sixth film. Also in the sixth movie, when Harry and Dumbledore walk into Professor Slughorn's house, you can clearly see his feet sticking out from under the couch. No wonder they spotted him so easily. Here's something mind-blowing about Voldemort. Right after he comes back to life, his robes are almost completely black. But here's the thing. Every time one of his Horcruxes gets destroyed, his robes get a little bit lighter. When he's leading the Death Eaters in the attack on Hogwarts, you can clearly see his robes are way lighter than theirs. That's because he only has one Horcrux left, Nagini. The lighter color shows his power is fading away. In the Goblet of Fire, when the Weasley twins wrestled each other after their aging potion scheme went awry, an exasperated Hermione sat down nearby to read. Although the book cover flashed by quickly, a careful look reveals its title, a tome detailing the various injuries and tragic events that befell past Triwizard Tournament competitors. This explains Hermione's deep concern for Harry's safety in the subsequent challenges. After the battle in the Department of Mysteries, Lucius Malfoy was imprisoned in Azkaban, a detail omitted from the films. However, eagle-eyed Potterheads can spot his Azkaban prisoner number tattooed on his neck in the final movie. Observant fans may notice in the third movie that Harry's iconic lightning bolt scar sometimes appears on the right side of his forehead, other times on the left. Rather than a continuity error, this is actually because some scenes take place in a mirrored reality. Here's a fun fact for you. In the novels, Charlie Weasley played Seeker, the twins were beaters, Ginny was a chaser, and Ron was keeper. That means the Weasley kids held every single position on the Gryffindor Quidditch team between them. When Harry enters platform 9 3/4, you can see a grandmother saying goodbye to her grandson near the train entrance up ahead. Based on this kid's build, we can figure out that this child is actually Neville. In the Prisoner of Azkaban movie, after Harry takes the night bus to the Leaky Cauldron, you can spot a wizard using his right hand to control a coffee spoon while casually reading a book with his left hand. If you look closely, you'll notice the wizard is reading Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time. This hints that this movie will involve time-related plot elements. During the Battle of Hogwarts, Harry and Neville's outfits were actually similar to what their fathers once wore. If you look at the original Order of the Phoenix photo, you can see Harry wearing a jacket in the same style as James Potter's, and Neville is wearing a sweater just like his father Frank's. These two children of prophecy carried their father's legacy and ultimately defeated Voldemort. Here's a fun fact for you. Neville Longbottom's toad, Trevor, is actually a member of the Hogwarts choir. The Weasley twins generously gave Harry the Marauders map so he could sneak into Hogsmeade. The map's cover shows the nicknames of the 4 Marauders. If you look closely, you'll notice that Moony is actually misspelled as Mooney on the map cover. This was totally intentional though, because the visual effects supervisor for Prisoner of Azkaban is actually named Mooney. Here's another cool detail. Even though Barty Crouch Jr. appeared one movie later than Sirius Black, he was actually the first person to escape from Azkaban prison. Only his parents and the house elf Winky knew about this secret. After his escape, Barty Jr. was cared for by Winky. She was one of Dobby's few house elf friends and actually appeared in the movies for just 1 second. That house elf you see with Dobby in that quick scene, that's Winky. In the first movie, during the welcome feast at Hogwarts, Harry's scar starts hurting when he looks at Snape. When I first watched this, I thought Snape was the bad guy. But if you look closely, you'll notice that Professor Quirrell is actually facing away from Harry at that exact moment. And we all know who's on the back of Quirrell's head, right? When Snape sees Harry looking uncomfortable, he immediately turns to look at Quirrell sitting next to him. Maybe Snape was already getting suspicious of Quirrell at this point. Ever wonder why 11-year-old Harry has so much money? Well, it turns out Harry's grandfather invented the most popular hair care potion in the wizarding world. It's basically the top brand in the industry, and the patent keeps bringing in money for Harry. So basically, every time a wizard uses this shampoo, Harry gets paid. And hey, maybe that's why Professor Snape never bothers washing his hair.